It's Siobhan Grant, St. Joseph's Hospital, and the presentation is called They're Allowed to Be Who They Are, exploring perspectives on the social model of care in a long-term, home-like facility for people living with dementia in Ireland.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Peter. First of all, thank you so much for having me here and for inviting me to speak to you all today. It's my first time speaking at the Research Day, and I'm delighted that I can share insights that we developed within St. Joseph's Shankill. We're not a hospital. I think that's an error. We are a nursing home, I suppose, and most of all, we would like to call ourselves a home. This is probably long in the making, really. It's probably 4 or 5 years ago, maybe, when Leslie first came out to visit us with our now retired Director of Nursing, Norma Sheehan, and myself, to develop ways to prove. We knew that the way we were caring for people was quite different, and we wanted to prove maybe and give a platform and some evidence to others to trust us when we said this is the way to go. Norma at the time was the PI. The nearest I knew about the PI was Magnum himself, and the nearest I got to Tom Selleck has been eating chocolate-covered ice creams. But in fairness, so that's, I don't know how then, when she retired, I became the PI, but I embraced it, and I'd like to thank Leslie and Peter and the Research Foundation and the department for their help and guidance in allowing me to access the first language of research. And so excuse me if I stumble over some of the more researched theoretical words. They're not my first language, but in essence, I suppose we wanted to make sure that St. Joseph's developed and cultivated a place for learning, and we wanted to cultivate that spirit, and so I'm the guinea pig, I suppose. So if I can do it, anyone can do it. Really, just to introduce you to about dementia in Ireland, we're very lucky that tomorrow I'm presenting this very same presentation tomorrow at the 14th International Conference in Croke Park about dementia, and we've just come back from presenting this in Europe as well at the European Conference for Dementia. In Ireland, there are 11,000 new cases every year. There's 11 people diagnosed with dementia every day in Ireland. When I first started in St. Joseph's, we were bandying around the numbers of 40,000. Then it went to 54. Now we're using 65,000 people are living with dementia today in Ireland. Policy really is driving people to stay at home, to be supported at home. There's a lot of money that's been invested into home care packages. They're being developed currently. But I suppose we would always say, and we come across it all the time, people have this awful guilt about allowing their loved one to come and live in a nursing home. We shouldn't have that. And we shouldn't have a stigma around living in a nursing home. And we're very much trying to break down those stigmas. But 20,000 people in nursing homes today are living with some kind of cognitive decline or a dementia, diagnosed dementia. So in our literature review, I'd like to say actually we were very lucky that because of our real lack of experience we had, and part of our funding was that we were able to employ a research assistant who is now a doctor herself, and she really embraced the role, and she was really passionate and kind of was inspired hopefully by our passion for the subject as well. She looked into, Mackenzie is her name, and she looked into the kind of the human rights aspect and luckily, we have a very, very prolific and robust working group, people living with dementia in Ireland that work with the Alzheimer's Society, and they work together on a charter for human rights within Ireland. We are currently, St. Joseph's are currently working on a charter for across Europe called the Dementia Right Project, and hopefully maybe next year we can present on that. But we took that, and in essence it says, every person living with dementia has the right to maintain maximum independence, physical, mental, social, and vocational ability, and full inclusion and participation in all aspects of life. We as caregivers must support them doing that. Within the long-term care homes, Kitwood and all his colleagues, he developed person-centeredness. particularly apt in people living with dementia, where really you focus on person-centred approaches, and the functional layouts are better received by care staff and family members. Life stories of people with a dementia, often more often than not, your learned qualities of life, how you process information, how you remember things, are often lost or diminished. And but what isn't diminished is your emotions and your feelings. So if we can connect with people through their own life story of the things they love to do and the things that makes them them, that makes it really important. So that brings me to where we are in St. Joseph's. So who are we? St. Joseph's is part of St. John of God Hospital, that we were brought into the banner of the hospital back in the early 2000s, or the mid 2012, I think. And we share clinical governance. We're very lucky that we have kind of access to some of the services within St. John of God Hospital. But we are a nursing home that is a home to 60 people. In 2018, we won the Excellence in Dementia Care at the Nursing Home Ireland Awards. We've also won the Charity Impact Awards, which is the Wheel, which is a governing body of charities in Ireland. And we won that in 2020. And in 2021, we also achieved the Investing in Volunteers Award, which is one of the ones we're very proud of, because only 13 organisations in Ireland have that award. And we are the only nursing home in Ireland that actually has achieved this. And it's measured against 9 pillars. In 2015, 2016, we started our morphism into a butterfly home, and that is a continually growing and emerging home. And we like to think people come from all over Ireland and actually are coming from all over Europe to see the way we care. So why did we make the change? We made the change because there was 2 things. We needed to make an environmental change because HICWA required that. And at the same time, we also knew from the evidence around that home-like small environments are really the best way to care for people, despite the fact that there are loads of huge, big 100, 200 bedded nursing homes popping up all throughout Ireland. That is not the best way to care for people. It is the best way in a model of care. And I suppose we wanted proof to show that. Home-like environments were created, and we shifted our culture of care from a model of care based on a medical model or a clinical model to a more social, emotional model of care. We created 6 lodges. So we didn't really change the footprint of the building. We just created, there was 2 sides, and each had 3 corridors, and each corridor became a lodge in itself, where people live together at the same stage of dementia and still do to this day. The butterfly model of care, which is from the Meaningful Care Matters programme, has no strict routines. We have no nurses' stations. We have no uniforms. And we have no real harsh rules. You know, you can get up when you want to. There's no breakfast is often from 6 o'clock in the morning till 11 o'clock in the morning. You know, people can stay in bed if they want. They can have a cup of tea and then come up and get the full Irish. It doesn't matter. Whatever is their preference, it's their choice. What Butterfly is, so we've just told you what it's not. It is a home-like environment. Every home has at least one living, shared living room. We are very much based on feelings. So how does someone feel today? Even the way we recruit our staff, the way we start our day in the morning is based around, at a handover, we tell each other by indicating what colour of we pick a colour. If it's black, you know that you need to really work on that person's mood for the day. If it's red or yellow, that person, maybe the yellow person is going to work with the black person. Hopefully they'll become a bit of a rainbow by the end of the day. So we do focus everything on feelings. Again, life stories are so important. So we bring the person's life stories to life in each lodge. There are photographs on the walls of their family, of their interests, of what they like to do, like we all have in our own family. And we have meaningful activities, meaningful that aren't just 60 people standing in front of an activities coordinator. That doesn't work. You know, 1 or 2 people might engage, but not always. We had to make a lot of changes, and I'm just going to flick through some slides here of the before and after. You can see very much this side is clinical based. Chairs are all the same, round tables, nothing on them. nothing to inspire. Where you look at the other side there, we have a kitchen table, but even the chairs are different colours. It's dressed with a tablecloth. There's food on the table. It looks like a kitchen of any of ours. It's probably tidier than mine, but it's home-like. Again, we have the same picture. There's no comparison if I was living here or the one after. Where would I prefer to be? And that doesn't change just because you have a dementia. Evidence that we gathered showed that very much a person-centred approach does work, and we had a lot of the statistics, I suppose, to prove it. Our falls went down by 50%. Our use of psychotropic drugs went from 78% down to 23% after the cultural change had been this had transformed in St. Joseph's. We also had responsive behaviours. We had 98 one year. The following year we had 3. People's needs are being met by the way we're connecting with them. If you connect with someone in a meaningful way, it will make them feel like they matter, make them feel like they're needed, and they will feel loved. And that's essentially what people need to feel when they're living with dementia. We also have 0 restraints in St. Joseph's. We don't have lap belts. We don't have cot sides. If someone is inclined to roll out of bed, they sleep in the low bed and they roll onto a mattress instead of seeing this cage-like thing beside them. We don't know how someone is perceiving a cot side when they're looking out from it. Particularly with the dementia, you could have a lot of, I don't know, I don't live with it, but I can only imagine from stories. We don't know everyone as a person and an individual. What we did was we had 3 within the methodology. It was a qualitative study and very much focused on the lived experience of people and people's social backgrounds. We had ethics approval from the St. John of God Ethics Committee. We recruited both staff and families. None of the residents that live with us at the moment probably would have been able to comment particularly on the way of life, but we tried to recruit staff that were employed pre the change and have been there since. And although there's a couple of family members that have been both before and after, there's not many left, but some had come from other nursing homes and had experience living in other nursing homes, and some had actually moved their loved one to us explicitly for that reason. They were all digitally recorded and transcribed, and there was a thematic results. We came out with 3 themes. The first one was that everyone works together, and that's how you have to do it. Participants really appreciated how the social model of care works, but really you need everyone bought in, and we see that time and time again. If you have, unfortunately through COVID and things, we had a lot of agency staff, and if there's only one person trying to lead this social, emotional connection and try and teach people who've come from a clinical background, it's very difficult. But we kept going, and no one, I think, one of the things we're proud of through is that in St. Joseph's during COVID, no one was isolated in bedrooms. Everyone stayed cocooned in their own lodge, as we all did in our own homes. So that was one of the benefits of the butterfly model during COVID. So I've gone the wrong way. So from that thing working together, one of the managers said, I think we should be aiming high. Like, don't get me wrong, like compared to other nursing homes, this is amazing. Another staff member said, it's working, it's really working. It's trying to move people along. It's trying to get everyone engaged and keep those people engaged. The next theme was, this is the best way. This is the way to do it. Okay. Everyone said, they really believed in the model, and everyone throughout in every care home in Ireland should be, and everywhere should be working with this model of care. One family member said, when he was in the other facility, so this is someone that had moved their loved one from one place to another, I always felt I had to be the nurse. Now, not the daughter. So she was always on wearing, with her clinical hat on. Here, I can just be his daughter. And that gift is absolutely priceless. They get the same amount of love and care and compassion, and in the moment when they need it most. That's from another family member. And again, through COVID, we didn't have any visitors. Our staff just upped the hugs and kisses and love that they demonstrated. No one really living with us was isolated or felt wasn't a huge dramatic difference in their behaviours throughout COVID. The theme 3 was staff truly take the time. So really it was a focus, and it's a real accolade to the staff as well. They build genuine connections with people and really get to know them. When our staff are away on holidays, they bring back presents for like you do to your own friends or from holidays. And residents really know them and recognise them as well. So they mightn't know their name or who they are particularly, but they recognise them as someone that gives them love. Here's one example. So I once said, oh, Dad loved musicals and his favourite was West Side Story. And then I came in one week and a carer was like, oh, you'll never guess what, West Side Story's on Netflix now. And he was playing it, and Dad was sitting there, honestly, like he was tapping his knee with his hand to the music. And I just thought, Jesus, I said that to her a year ago and she remembered. So that's real appreciation of you know, the connections that people have. That's what Butterfly is about. It's going the extra mile to find out who the person is and what is important to them. And I think I couldn't have said it better. Overall, I think everyone who participated in the study really believed that this Butterfly model was the best way to look after the people in our care. And the care has improved since the transition into a social model of care. There was always a great reputation in St. Joseph's for physical care. But I suppose it's very different now. What we have found, and I think areas that we could look into further, was, the findings is to look at it very much promotes all the other findings that we had about person-centred care and the small home-like environments as well, and social model care. And listen, all the evidence is there to show that we're very lucky in the positive responses that we've had. We feel that there is, space for future research to implement the social model of care, and also volunteers work at St. Joseph's. We have over 200 volunteers, as I've said previously, and they really help to enhance the way we care, because you can still get caught up in doing things, and there mightn't be enough people to do to go for that walk with someone, or the spare person to go. I'm not saying the volunteers are spare, they are in no way it's spare. And I'd like to thank all the people who have helped us get here, particularly Norma, Leslie, Louise Hopper, Dr. Louise Hopper from DCU, and Mackenzie as well. Our references are there, but I did want to show you one 2-minute video. I know I'm probably way over time, but it's worth just seeing.
Dublin's fair city, where the girls are so pretty, I first set my eyes on sweet Molly Malone.
So Norma, tell us, why is this care home different from others?
I'd worked in acute care before I came here all the time, in general hospitals, and I always felt we failed people with dementia because we didn't understand it. I didn't understand it. I didn't know enough about it. I suppose I started searching what is the best model of care for people with dementia, and implemented what's called the Butterfly model of care. One of the aspects of it is that you remove everything clinical. So we've no drug trolleys, we've no nurses' stations, we've no uniforms and no name badges. The whole model is really about finding out who the person is and what matters to them.
Oh, look how young you are there. Look at your handsome husband.
It's really what we're focusing on is what the person can still do, not what they can't do.
So Norma, what would be your hope?
I would like this to be the way people are cared for everywhere. We know this works. The amount of medication people were on was at 78% before we started the model. It went down to 23%. In the first year, falls halved. The restraint went to 0%. What I really would love to see is trainee nurses and trainee care staff, that this is the model that is used to teach people how to care for people with dementia. They deserve it.